Wow. Today is one of those days as a content creator where so much has happened you don't even know where to start, and you wonder how you'll have time. This is one of those moments. But welcome to the Cleric Corner. My name is Riker, and here we talk about all things Dungeons and Dragons, tapping into our higher powers to create worlds more unique and stories more impactful. I wanted to get this into you today because I wanted to get a jump start on all of this before things hit the fan, because wow, today was Wizards Presents, the big event to basically explain what's going to happen with Wizards of the Coast, the company, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic, the Gathering, and what's going to happen in the next year. What the next version of D&D is going to look like, and how we can get involved today in helping that venture. They've actually released playtests where we can actually take a look at that and see what changes they've already implemented or already been thinking about, so that we can start implementing them in our games, give them feedback, and then hopefully just corroborate the game to make it ours in 2024, as there is a lot to go over. And they didn't cover everything, it's just a little bit, but what I plan to do here is we're going to go over some of the key features in the live broadcast that they did this morning, and then we're going to go dive deep into the releases that they implemented for the next version of D&D, and really look at what those tasty little juicy treats are. So thank you for being here. I know that this is not a typical time for my live stream. Again, wanted to get this to you as quickly as possible. So thank you. Who do we have in the chat? We have Trevor Noon. Hello. D&D news was insane. Yes. It was insane. We're talking about, they're calling it D&D 1 or 1 D&D. So the reason they're not calling it D&D 5e or D&D 6e is because it's not technically different enough. And it is, from Way Renninger's words, they said that they are basically satisfied on how D&D is working now, and they don't really feel like a lot of changes should be made, which is good, because when they talk about being backwards compatible and getting as close as we can to do that, that means nothing in 5e as we're playing it now is too much in jeopardy. So I say that's a plus, and we can kind of look at that a little bit later too. But as far as we know, we're not calling it the next version. We're not calling it D&D 5e or D&D 6e, because it is not a change, but almost an edit or expansion, or basically a really big sage advice or sage compendium, if I can say that. They're just tweaking things, turning some dials to make it a little bit different, so that we can play how we want to play, as well as rebalance the game in a new and unique way. So we'll get into that. Ray Burris, hello, yo. Kristen Jones, hello. I think you need to start a new campaign just to start testing it out. I don't think so. I don't think you'll have to start a new campaign. But there will be some things that will work a lot differently in your campaign. I guess that without actually showing you guys, that's how we're gonna do it. The spell list. Kristen, I am so freaking happy about those spell lists, and I will tell you guys why. That's probably my favorite part. I'm not gonna lie, my favorite part is how they're doing the spell list. Out of everything that happened today, that is my favorite part. Especially from all the flavor things that I do on this channel. Lunar Foxfire, hello, welcome. Thank you guys for joining. Let's dive right into it. And let's look at just, I'm gonna leave the video on mute, just so that I don't know if the music is gonna be flagged or anything like that. So we're just gonna look at it. Okay. So here we go. This is some of the key features that we saw. So starting with the VTT, a big announcement with Dungeons and Dragons is with D&D Beyond, they are implementing a VTT. So a virtual tabletop that we can actually play on and interact with on the things that we're familiar with if you use D&D Beyond. Now, this might be bad news for a lot of other VTTs. Wow, I said T's thrice. VTTs. See, I'm just so excited, guys. But this is good news for everyone who plays Dungeons and Dragons, where I believe a lot more things will be implemented, right? And again, if you do have questions, please put questions in all caps in the chat so that I can pick it out easy, or you can super chat, and that obviously will flag me. So this I'm excited for because it seems relatively simple to use. It's gorgeous. They're using very unique camera angles to it, and I don't. This one of the figures looks like Hero Forge to me. I wouldn't be surprised if they like collaborated with Hero Forge. But either way, this will be fun to test out and to see when it comes out. Because what I would be really excited about is if basically it'll have plugins to the encounter builder already in D&D Beyond, where you can put those things in, and when you go to the map, it already pulls things up. They already said that they'll already have like pre-generated maps for published things, for published adventures. And so really you would just have to go into that adventure, click run encounter, and it pulls up the map with all of the monsters already inside. And if that's not cool, I don't know what is. I think it's cool. And yeah, it might really have a, I see your comment, Trevor. It might put a big damper on on Foundry, on Roll20 and things like that. But then again, they just did a big deal with Roll20 that allows them to implement everything on the, what's it called? Dungeons and Dragons, the DM's Guild. The DM's Guild. So they'll still have everything there. And because D&D Beyond doesn't implement anything in the DM's Guild, I maybe doubt that they'll implement that, at least at first. And so they'll still have that. Might be something to keep them going. But I think that Roll20 being as grandfather as it is, in a good way, meaning that a lot of people use it, a lot of people know how it works, and a lot of people will still prefer playing that way. It, like, change is hard for some people. We'll just say that. Change is hard, but at least there's an option. And I haven't really picked a favorite VTT. I use Owlbear Rodeo currently. But I would completely use this, especially if it's more integrated. So, the great thing is about these kind of things with D&D Beyond, with the virtual tabletop, is that it is great for like purist D&D game, the game itself, but terrible for homebrew. If you're homebrewing anything, getting third-party content, it probably won't be implemented that well. Probably not. But here's to hoping, right? So, anyways, it's going into, I kind of let it run. It's going into Magic the Gathering stuff. Also fun. You can go check that out. We're not covering Magic the Gathering currently right now. So, but going forward to, let's say the other most important part is the 2023 release dates for new D&D books. They talked a little bit about Dragonlance and the new things going on, but nothing really more than we thought was going to come up. Or anything more information, that is, for Dragonlance. We just know that it's coming at the end of the year, and there's going to be a box set with a game involved, like a board game that can be actually implemented in the D&D game itself, or just played separately, which is kind of cool. So Ginny D, always love her, always love seeing her. She got to present, and that's just beautiful. Okay, so we have Keys from the Golden Vault, be a compendium, much like the Radiant Citadel, or, what's the word? The Candlekeep Mysteries, except this one will be a lot more of like the rogue-style adventure, heists. Yeah, lots of heists. Then we have Glory of the Giants. Yes! Can't freaking wait for this. For me, I believe it's going to be a lot like Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, where we had a total complete book compendium for dragons. We're going to have a total complete compendium for giants themselves. And I love giants. I can't wait to use them and to see what they come up with this thing. It's awesome. Dreaming KW, I can't wait to hear my thoughts on the update. Tons of flavor improvements. There is. And absolutely we'll get there. Owlbear is, guys, if you're looking for a super simple, like just pull up and go, VTT, Owlbear Rodeo is the way to go. It's awesome. Okay, so we have Glory of the Giants. Super excited about that. That's probably my number 2 that I'm excited for. Then we have a Fandelver campaign. I'm just looking forward to this because it will help me get more familiar with Phandelver and the the lore revolving that. I'm excited about that. The Book of Many Things, not a lot to know about this one. Obviously, they're implementing a lot of things from the Deck of Many Things. A lot of people think it's going to be like a magic item book or an item book. But we also saw spells in the last Unearthed Arcana that included elements from the Deck of Many Things. So it might just be an exploratory compendium of more spells, more magic items, more feats, and just that. That's it, right? No adventure, no campaign, just bonus features and bonus content for characters and DMs alike, which is something that we really haven't seen yet. So if they do something like that, I'm excited to see what they come up with. Okay, so the next one, number 1 on my list, Planescape. Love it. Love to see it. So excited for it. Planescape, if you're not familiar, while Spelljammer is an exploration of space and a spacefaring setting for D&D, Planescape is basically the exploration of all the planes, right? So you have the higher planes, the lower planes, Hell, Heaven, Feywild, Shadowfell, positive and negative planes. You have the Beastlands, you have Mechanus, you have the Abyss, you have tons. And if I remember right from the last Planescape, it's followed the Modron March around the planescapes, or around the different planes as they travel the different planes, and the adventure kind of surrounded that. So they might do something like that. Or it could be completely new and completely different. And I'm excited to see what they come up with. I personally, if I had to choose like between the Planescape setting and the Spelljammer setting, I'd probably, to me, I love space, and I probably enjoy that a lot more. However, Planescape and Sigil is like the main place where all the spirits go when they die, and it's like the City of Judgment lies there. The spirits go there, and then they're judged, essentially, and then they are shot into their respective afterlife, which is super exciting. And so I love that feature. I love Sigil. I really wanted to see it in 5e. I've played with Sigil in a couple of one-shots before. I can't wait for that. So, all good news from here so far. All great news. I would say that many things are going to be in Xanathar's or Tasha's type book. Yeah, a lot of things are going to be like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. But there is going to be some elements that seem to actually go back on a few things from what they've done, which is interesting, at least in the playtest. So, good thing they're leaving it open. Questionable thing on like, okay, well, what do they really want, and what are they really trying to get from us? So, it's interesting. It was like an MCU panel where they just tease you with a bunch of titles, and you have to wait to see what they are actually about. Yeah, Dreaming KW, yeah. It was a bunch of things. Basically, it's all we got, is just titles. That's it, right? But next up, it did tease on D&D Beyond. They did tease that if you wanted to be a part of the playtest, this is where you got to go. So you go here, you go to sources, and it's right here, the 1 D&D playtest materials. You go there, you click character origins. That's the first one. Actually, I'll go back. So it looks like there will be a list. So as each one comes out, they said that it's going to be like a new one every 2 weeks, which is insane. Or that the survey will come out 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks after that they'll get the new one. That's probably more. That's probably more in line with what it would be. Yeah, that makes sense, right? 2 weeks to playtest, 2 weeks to get the survey stuff, and then sending out the next one. That makes sense. Okay, but anyways, there'll be a list here. You can find it here. So you click on character origins. Here is a video of everything in there. With Todd and with why am I forgetting I'm just excited, guys. I'm not dealing with names right now. Anyways, it's download PDF here at the bottom. Here's the video to break it down. If you don't want to read it, you click on that, and this will come up. So character origins. What is this? Also, if you did miss everything and didn't want to watch the video and wanted to read it, this is a recap right here on Wizard Presents, and it will give you everything that happened in that video there. So that's another way to look at it. Okay, there's a lot to go over. So again, I'm going to kind of briefly go over things. If you want me to dive in deep, again, big question, or question in all caps so I can pick it out, or to super chat. Okay. Drunken Yoda, you are everywhere today. Hello. How will they tie up Planescape with Spelljammer? I don't know. The planes, like the different wild space systems versus the planes has always been confusing for me. And maybe it would be good in Planescape to kind of explain that a little bit more. But you bring up a good point. Riker's definitely excited. Yes. Guys, it's D&D. Like, what's not to be excited about? Like, this is new things. This is news. This is Planescape. This is Giants. This is fun. So, yeah, you bet your butt I'm excited. Okay. So, with the kind of the breakdown, actually, also, there is also a Reddit thread of giving a breakdown of these things as well. So it's an Unearthed Arcana Reddit thread. Basically gives you the highlights of all of them. Again, if you don't want to read it. It misses a couple things, but also if you don't want to read the whole thing. Okay. So, character races, character backgrounds, starting languages, feats, and rules glossaries, kind of the order that we're going to go through. Determining your origin. Says you're actually going to pick your class first, which is interesting. But it's but later on it says that it gives you the feats as a prerequisite of level 1. So obviously you would need a level in a class first before you pick a feat, which in order for some feats you get through a background, because now backgrounds always have a feat attached. And then backgrounds also, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a few changes. But anyway, so class first, you get a level, and then you can implement other things as prerequisites allow. So character origin gives you the standard things, what's going to be in there: creature type, size, speed, lifespan, special traits, and then background traits as well. So 4 races, here we go. We'll get into the meat of it. Humans, simple things, except now you can be small, which is amazing. You can be a small person. Or vertically challenged. I don't know the official actually way to say that now. But small persons. You could be one, and you are resourceful, where you gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. And these asterisks are basically means that there are changes to that later in the document. So we'll get to that. But you gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest, which is pretty cool. Skillful, you get proficiency in one skill of your choice, and you're versatile, where you get an additional feat, or another first level, or you get a sealed feat or another first level feat of your choice. So a little bit different from what we're used to, but very much human. A new race that we get is the Ardling. I am so pumped for this one. When they were beginning to describe it, I was like, that's a little weird, because they basically described it as celestials with animal faces, and I'm like, why? Why? This is my initial reaction. I'm like, why do we need angels with masks on? Like, why do we need more furries? But that's not it at all. And I'm wondering why they did not explain this a little bit better in their video. But now I'm thinking like, oh, they're trying to be more inclusive with other religions in implementing this, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so Ardlings are supernatural beings who are born in the upper planes. Their bright souls shine at the light of immortal beings. And they typically have virtuous associations depending on the animal. The Ardling might also have soft fur, downy feathers, some bare skin. Basically, an animal but celestial. Actually, perfect for coming from the Beastlands, one of the upper planes, but also coming from all of them. We have the Exalted version, which is from the Chaotic Good Planes. Heavenly version, which is the Lawful Good Planes, and the Idyllic, which is from the Neutral Good Planes. Now, with these, I'm going to skip forward a second. You're given like certain animals that are like suggestions. Obviously, you can be any animal you'd like if you want. You are given cat, eagle, goat, and mule for Exalted, elephant, owl, pig, stork for Heavenly, and bear, dog, raven, and toad for Idyllic. And you get the associated spells with those things at 1st, 3rd, and 5th level. You get Angelic Flight as a bonus action. You can sprout Spectral Wings, fly up to that speed, and then fall if you're not on ground. And then you have Celestial Legacy, where you get to choose one of these things, and then a damage resistance to radiant damage. Here's the cool thing about Ardlings. is that I began to think about celestial creatures with the heads of animals, and you're thinking Anubis, like Egyptian gods. You can have like Egyptian gods in your campaign. I'm thinking Ganesh from Thailand having an elephant head. Like, this is what this to me, I think this is what this is for, right? Is to be inclusive, or that's what I'm going to use it for. If no one else is, I'm going to use it for that, is to be inclusive with a lot of the other gods in D&D and allowing descendants of these gods or demigods of these gods as a playable race. And I think that is so cool. So cool, chef's kiss. Good job, Wizards. If that wasn't your intent and you just wanted celestials with animal creatures, okay. But still, good job. I see a question in the chat. Hello, Trevor. Should we expect the Ardlings with being anthropomorphic beings, or should we imagine them differently? I would imagine anthropomorphic, right? Because they are, they're still humanoid. They're not celestial, which is a missed opportunity, I think. I think Ardlings should be celestials and tieflings should be fiends, but that's just me. I think that we should be open and should be more... we should be less scared to experiment with that, right? And then if we're changing D&D anyways, it would be easier to change how like spells like Cure Wounds works, where it just says humanoid, that it only affects humanoid. It's easier to just change that one spell instead of going to all the races and saying like, hey, I'm a construct, so obviously you can't be affected by magical healing, but I have this one feature that makes it so that I can anyways. Right? I think that I just fixed the spell instead of having to go back and redo everything, or just have that extra text in every other one. That to me, that makes more sense. Yes? Am I wrong? Anyways, that's a hot topic. Okay. I'm excited about that one. Drunken Yoda, love your take, but most are thinking, but most are yes. Yeah, I know. But that's the thing, is like, people are going to do what we talk about, right? And so if, and I'm taking it upon myself to say that that's not what it's going to be. And it's going to be an exploration of new and fun celestial creatures of different religions and different cultures. Totally be a beast folk. Totally be anything that you want to be. Do that. I think it's great. I mean, if you want to be a beast folk, I think there are better flavors to do that. Because in this stat block, you just get a bunch of celestial type magic. Celestial type spells. So if you wanted to like have a beast folk, you're probably better off just reflavoring something else. Furries can still have their way with the shifter. All good. All good. Everyone's happy. Yeah, so the description, Dreaming KW, it does specify that it is the head of an animal, but it also specifies that they, depending on the animal, it might also have soft fur, downy feathers, or supple bare skin. So, like, they say that that's the main feature, but if you have it, the rest of your body can still, like, reflect that. So you could be like a beast folk in visage, essentially. Okay, Dragonborn Traits. This one made me a little sad. Let's look at the Dragonborn race in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Actually, it'd probably be better doing it this way. So Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, we have the Chromatic Dragon born that was given to us as a race because everyone thought that the original Dragonborn race was like, meh. So they redid it in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. And I thought, and everyone was like, this is awesome, this is great. You get a breath weapon, you get Draconic Resilience, which is resistance to the damage, and then you get Chromatic Warding, where you can make yourself immune to that damage for 1 minute. And then the breath weapon is replacing one of your attacks on your turn, instead of using your whole action. So, but how they did it here was they remade Breath Weapon as an action again. So it takes up your whole action. So it's more detrimental to use this as a fighter than it is as a wizard. And then you have damage resistance, which is the same thing. And then you have dark vision and then a draconic language. So you miss out on two huge features that they gave in the previous Fizzbands of Treasure Dragon. I think you should just keep that. If wizards or anybody wizards actually watch my live streams, like, thank you. I appreciate you being here. That would be one of my input, is just keep the original. Everyone liked that. This one, I think a lot of people would just be disappointed in taking away things. So, anyways, that's that. Dwarf. I'm excited for this one. Okay, you have Dwarven Resilience, resistance to poison damage, Dwarven Toughness. You get to your hit point maximum increases by 1 for every level. Forge-wise, your Divine Creator gave you an Uncanny Affinity. You can gain tool proficiency with 2 options of the following: Jewelers, Masons, Smiths, and Tinkers. Stone Cunning. As a bonus action, you gain Tremor Sense, which is really cool. Also changed it a little at the end of the document, with a range of 60 feet or 10 minutes. Or for 10 minutes. And then you must be on a stone surface or touching a surface. Wait, you must be on a stone surface or touching such a surface to use this Tremor Sense, which makes sense. And the stone can be natural or worked. You can use this bonus action as a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you gain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So they gave you Tremor Sense, but it's limited. Like, it has to be stone, right? So if you're in the middle of a grassland or on a wooden ship, this feature probably wouldn't work. Which might be a good way to nerf it if you feel like it's too strong, and if Tremor Sense is like... Which it is. It's a very useful ability, let's be honest. Because you probably couldn't be surprised, ever, if that was the case. So, yeah. Trevor, I agree. Also, the erasure of my gem boys. Yeah, well, this is the player's handbook, so they probably won't get into, like, gem Dragonborns. It'd be cool if they did. If they did implement a lot of the things that they did not put in Monsters of the Multiverse, which I don't think they put any Dragonborn in. So, yeah. Let's see. Duncan Pohl, the half races can be any mix now. Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. Ardlings can have the body of anything else. So, yeah, I can read it later, but it's pretty self-explanatory. They are changing half races. So thank you for bringing that up, Duncan. Instead of having half orc or half elf, we don't have those anymore. Instead, we're just given the option of, like, hey, you can look like anything. And you get to pick what your abilities are. So if you're, let's say, half orc, half ardling, you can look like an orc and have ardling abilities. So basically they say, just with your 2 parents, look like any combination of the 2 of them, and then just choose one or the other for your stats. And I think that's pretty simple. I think that removes a little customization, but for simplicity's sake, it's a good move. And again, if you really wanted to change it again in your games, you say, like, a player comes to you and is like, hey, I really like this Stone Cunning as a dwarf trait. Can I switch it out for my spells as an Ardling? And I'd probably be okay with that. So yeah, things like that. But that's also something you kind of mix and match, and it's a lot simpler than giving a whole layout of, like, if this is one parent and this is one parent, this is what you get. And if this is one parent and this is one parent, this is what you get. And because that would take up pages. Okay, Elven Traits. Here we go. Dark Vision, Elven Lineage. You're part of an Elven lineage, and it gives you options. So we saw this in the Ardling, but also we have the Drow, High Elf, and Wood Elf, which also has a graph down here. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier when it looks like they're kind of backtracking a little bit, because in the Monsters of the Multiverse, they got rid of sub-races, right? The Shatter Kai had their own race. The Drow had their own race. The Elf had their own race. They were not sub-races. But here, they went back to the drawing board with the sub-races again, and they came out with this. And if this is the way we're going, fine. I like that each race was unique. I don't know if we're trying to save space or if this is considered simple. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. What do you guys feel about this? What do you guys feel? But you get to choose that at third level. You get these, and then you get Fey Entry, advantage on saving throws against the Charm condition, Keen Sense, Proficiency in Perception skill, and then Trance. You don't need to sleep. Magic can't put you to sleep, and you finish a long rest in 4 hours. Drow, you get Dark Vision and Dancing Lights. High Elf, you get Prestidigitation, and you can replace a cantrip every long rest? Yes, every long rest. You can replace it from the Arcane spell list. Well, we're gonna get to the spell list, guys. We're gonna get there. I'm excited. Then Wood Elf, your speed increases to 35, and you know the Druidcraft cantrip. And then these spells, but you see those. Okay, Gnome. Gnomish Cunning, you have advantage on Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. And then Gnomish Lineage, you're part of Gnomish Lineage, grants you supernatural abilities. You gain lineage from your Gnomish Lineage of Forest and Rock, I think is the two. Yep, Forest and Rock. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's trying to do a subrace in a graph, and this is just like, this is a long paragraph to be in a graph. just put it as its own subrace. But that's I shouldn't complain about that. That's just formatting. All right, Forest Gnome. In the Gnomish Lineage, you get the Minor Illusion cantrip. You can also speak with Animal spell with this trait. And then Rock Gnome, you have Mending and Prestidigitation, as well as being able to make tiny clockwork devices. Which is interesting because they're also trying to go away from cultural abilities. And I think they did a job with the GIF in saying that it was blessed by a god, a firearm god that gave them the ability to cast or to wield firearms really, really well. So it wasn't a cultural thing; it was a magical thing, and it could be the same case as this one, except it doesn't look like there's any explanation of that. So to me, creating clockwork devices is a cultural thing. What if this rock gnome grew up in a dwarf settlement or a tiefling settlement? They probably wouldn't know how to make these clockwork devices. So, Trevor says, "Stop giving elves so much stuff." As how I feel. This could be one of the fixes. The only thing I can think of is like the teleporting features that maybe they're taking away or not implementing. But people are saying that elves are getting stronger and stronger as they go. Elves are not a race that interests me very much. I mean, to me, they could be as OP and broken as they want. But I don't know. I've never wanted to play an elf. I don't know what it is. Not a fan. All right, Halfling Traits. Lunar, yes, they are just updating and changing stuff in the player's handbook. Yeah, that is it. They're not changing the monster manual. Well, they will be. They'll be reprinting the monster manual, which we probably will see in future Unearthed Arcana for the D&D one or one D&D, but not in this one. Halfling Traits, we have Brave, where you have advantage on saving throws to end the Frightened condition. Halfling Nimbleness, you can move through a space of any creature that is size larger, but not stop there. Luck, when you roll a 1 on the d20 of a d20 test, it's a new thing, we'll get to that as well, then you can re-roll the die and you must use the new roll. Naturally Stealthy, you have proficiency in the stealth skill. Orc, they're finally putting Orc in the player's handbook as their own race, so we don't get that in a future compendium. We have Adrenaline Rush, dash action as a bonus action, plus we get temporary hit points, so kind of like we already have. Dark Vision, and then Power-Filled Build, which are self-explanatory. Then Relentless Endurance, drop to 0 hit points, you can drop to 1 hit point instead. Tiefling, they're doing the same thing with Ardlings, as instead of getting like 1 from every layer of hell that they did in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, they are doing 3 lineages that implement the chaotic evil, neutral evil, and lawful evil planes. So you have the Abyssal, you have the Chthonic, and then you have the Infernal. So again, you can be a medium or small. You can be a small little imp creature, which is really fun. Dark Vision, Fiendish Legacy, you get to choose, like Ardlings, what your legacy is, and then the spells that are associated. So Abyssal, you have a resistance to poison damage, and then Poison Spray, Ray of Sickness, Hold Person. Chthonic, resistance to necrotic damage, then Chill Touch, False Life, Ray of Enfeeblement. Then with the Infernal, you have resistance to fire damage, and Firebolt, Hellish Rebuke, and Darkness. And then you have Otherworldly Presence, where you also know the Thaumaturgy cantrip, no matter what lineage that you choose. All good things in my book. Nothing too crazy. All right, here's the background. So they are flipping backgrounds on its head. They are saying backgrounds are completely customizable. You choose what your background is, but if you want examples and if you want samples, if you want to just grab and go, then here are some examples. But they're saying that customization of backgrounds are the ones taking precedence. Yes, Lunar. Notice there are no racial ability modifiers because they are here in backgrounds. Your backgrounds will now give you your ability modifier, which makes sense because it is what you train in. It's what your background is in. It's what you've been doing your whole life. So if you've been studying or working out or in the military, this is where you get your ability scores from, not your race, which makes sense. So you get ability scores, skill proficiencies, tool proficiencies, languages, and then a feat. And then equipment. And so your character gains 50 gold pieces to spend on starting equipment. Again, it's customizable, or you can choose from another sample background, essentially. So here's some of the samples that they gave. So the Acolyte gives you Magic Initiate, so of the Divine Spell list. So not Cleric spell list, Divine spell list. And then it gives you equipment suggestions. Artisan gives you the Crafter feat. Charlatan gives you the Skilled feat. Criminal gives you the Alert feat. And then the Cultist gives you Magic Initiate of the Arcane spell list. Entertainer gives you the Musician feat. Farmer gives you the Tough feat. Gladiator gives you the Savage Attacker feat. Guard gives you the Alert feat. Guide gives you the Magic Initiate Primal spell list. Actually, is Guide a new one? Oh, you get Giant Language for that one. That's cool. That is cool. I don't know if I think Guide is new. Hermit, you get a Magic Initiate Primal. Magic Initiate Primal. Laborer is also, I think, new with Tough, Noble, Skilled, Pilgrim, new. Healer, you get the Healer feat, which is also changed. Sage, Magic Initiate Arcane, and then Sailor, Tavern Brawler, Soldier, Savage Attacker, Urchin, the Lucky feat, which also has changed, and then the starting languages. Also love what they're doing here. Because they're giving you standard languages and rare languages. I thought it kind of silly, but also kind of cool that a lot of your characters can start just speaking the oldest language in existence. Like all your characters are just fluent in Latin for some reason. But here they're kind of separating it out and saying hey, these are all the common languages. These are ones that are a little rare. So it'll be fun to see if they implement that in the future, where they say hey, only certain feats give you access to standard languages, or certain feats give you access to rare languages. Like the Linguist feat, for example. I don't think they cover the Linguist feat. So here are some things that they changed. So the Alert feat changed by the following. When you roll initiative, you can add your proficiency bonus to the roll, and then initiative swap. Immediately after the roll of initiative, you can swap your initiative with the initiative of another ally, which is really cool. Actually, I want to remind myself what the original Alert says, because it might tell us something pretty unique. Yes. So you don't get +5 bonus to, +5. I'm thinking of Observant. Am I? You have +5 to initiative. Or can't be surprised. That's what I'm looking for. You can't be surprised when you're conscious. Surprised has changed. For the better, in my opinion. Actually, let's look at that. Let's look at, where does it give surprised at? Because I want to bring that up now. Okay, surprised. So I'll cover this again a little bit later, but surprised. If you're incapacitated when you roll initiative, you have a disadvantage on the roll. So what I'm thinking about from here, because this is a new feature in the incapacitated condition. I'm thinking surprised is just going to be you having disadvantage on initiative rolls. To me, that's amazing, because surprise just ruins your BBEG fights. If they get an extra turn with surprise, as it lays out now, if they get an extra turn, essentially, before the BBEG, potentially being able to take 2 turns before they even go, you're done. You're done. And so I like that change, and I'm probably going to implement that immediately in my games. Crafter, you get a discount on things, you craft things faster, and then you have 2 proficiency in an artisan's tools of your choice. Healer. One of the things that they're trying to make is that the feats are more usable for all classes, as well more implementable for party help. So helping other people in the party. So you get the Battle Medic, which you can heal a creature as an action and allow them to expend a hit dice to heal. And then healing rolls, whenever you roll a hit dice, or you heal, if you are a healer, an actual healer, and you cast a spell, you can reroll ones. So it's great for if you're not a divine spellcaster, and amazing if you are. Lucky, you get luck points instead. And for some reason, they made Lucky stronger, because depending on your proficiency bonus, you can use this up to 6 times a day. But essentially, you expend a skill point to do the exact same thing as you did before. You either re-roll yours or re-roll somebody else's dice. And again, for D20 tests, we'll get that in a second. Magic Initiate, pretty simple. 2 cantrips and a first level spell that you can cast again using an actual spell slot instead of just the one that you get through the feat. Musician, you actually get to give people inspiration, which is also amazing. They're taking... The thing that they're doing is they're taking initiative out of the DM's hands, essentially. They're making players less afraid to use it because because it's going to happen more often, and it's more in their hands to do it or to get it. And so that's kind of the purpose there, is they don't want to implement a feature and then it never be used, because people players are scared to use it because they don't know when they're going to get it next, and they don't know if right now is going to be the best time, so they just don't. So they're trying to make it more usable. Savage Attacker, pretty self-explanatory. Let's see. Yeah, damage dice. You can roll the damage dice twice and use either roll. Skilled, you get 3 proficiencies. Tavern Brawler is interesting. Enhanced Unarmed Strike. When you hit an Unarmed Strike, with an Unarmed Strike, you deal 1d4 plus your strength. You re-roll 1s. You can shove as part of that attack action. Instead, you can do it as part of it. And then, this is weird. Furniture as weapons. You can wield furniture as a weapon. Why not just say, like, non-weapon? Or, a non-weapon object as a weapon? I don't know why they specify furniture, but I digress. Using the rules of this great club for a small or medium furniture, and the rules of the tiny... and then use rules for a great club and a club, depending on the size of the piece of furniture that you pick up. Now, last I checked, like, a mug of ale wasn't a piece of furniture, but that's probably, like, the go-to weapon in a bar fight. I have never been in a bar fight, but I assume that that's what it is. I've been in one in, like, D&D, but not, like, personally been in a bar fight. Sorry, I saw your question, Trevor, and I haven't got it till now. I have noticed that languages are directly tied to backgrounds. No. Those are... So, again, these backgrounds here, they are optional, and they are examples. So, basically, again, they are emphasizing that your background, first and foremost, should be chosen. You choose your ability scores, then you choose 2 skills, then you choose your tool proficiency, then you choose your language. Then you choose a feat, and then you choose your equipment. Then sample backgrounds, this is when you say, like, I don't want to do those things, I just want to pick up, like, a grab and go, I want this, and I don't have to worry about it. Then this comes into play. So... if you're stuck with language that tied to your background, no. You can say, I want the Acolyte, but I want to change the Celestial to Fiend, because the temple that I'm at, we look at, or we watch for Fiend incursions, and that's the language that I use. So yeah. Oh, we're having some bad things in chat. I'm sorry, guys. Remove, please. Okay. Oops. So, guys, let me remove these real quick. Okay. So with that, let's continue. I hope that answers your question. So, yeah. Character idea already. Rock Gnome Artificer with a crafter background. Yep. Dan Yen, welcome to the chat. Lucky kind of nerf it. Just gives advantage or disadvantage. It makes it so that you don't have super advantage, right? Before you can roll advantage and then you can roll again with the lucky feat. This doesn't allow you to do that. So you no more super advantage with that, and I think that's great. Let's see. Going through back to the features. Musician, skilled attacker, tavern brawler. Tough is the same, and then rules glossary. Okay. Here's where we get good. So D&D test. This to me is a little confusing, and maybe you guys can help me make sense of it. But the term D&D test encompasses the 3 main D20 rolls of the game. So ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws. If something in the game affects D20 tests, it affects all 3 of these rolls. So the DM determines whether a D20 test is warranted at any given circumstance. To be warranted, a D20 test must have a target number no less than 5 and no greater than 30. So how I'm reading that is it's basically replacing DC, or difficulty class. They're saying roll a D20 test, and it's an all-encompassing, meaning like it could be an ability check, it can be an attack roll, it could be a saving throw. So the DM, I imagine, could be like, okay, roll a dexterity test, and that could be an ability check, an attack with dexterity, or a saving throw with dexterity, like a dexterity saving throw. But if they say that, then they just roll it and add their dexterity, and that's just kind of all encompassing. And they do that to meet a DC that the DM has already thought of. That's how I'm reading that. If I'm completely wrong, let me know. But yeah, so I think it's overall a good thing. It'll be a little, just a little learning curve trying to learn that language. But it's nice because you just have D20 tests instead of having to write out ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws in every bit of text that include those things. So if you look at like the lucky feat, when it says immediately after you roll a D20 for a D20 test, meaning that immediately after you roll a D20 for an ability check, a attack roll, or a saving throw, you can spend 1 luck point to give yourself an advantage on the roll. That's all it's saying, right? That's all it's saying. Rolling a D20, critical hits now only affect weapons and unarmed strikes, so not spells. So you cannot crit on a spell. People are saying that that's good because then it gives the melee characters a leg up on spellcasters that are getting them a little bit more power, and kind of evening the odds between the power levels of those 2 kind of categories. Which I think is good. I think that's a good move. And if you're worried about it, there's only like 20 something spells out of the hundreds that we have that are actually capable of critting, that are like actual attack spells. Most are saving throws, or otherwise. There is new grappled condition. So grappled, your speed is 0. Your attacks have disadvantage. You have a disadvantage on attack rolls against any other target than grappler. So amazing for your tanks because it attracts people to attack you instead of other people, which is exactly what you want as a tank. You're a hit point machine, hit point pool that you want to be the one to attack and grab. I think that's a great move for being a grapple as a taunting ability. Awesome. You movable. The grappler can drag or carry you. But it suffers the slowed condition, which we'll look at. And then escaped, it's basically, the same thing. It's a contested DC roll. But they say DC here. So, like, are they using DC or are they using test? Or, like, are there only certain instances where they use both? I'm a little confused on how that's working, but maybe I'll get used to it or maybe I'll figure it out. So that the slowed condition is a new condition that we get right here. So if you're grappling someone, you get this. You must spend 1 extra movement, or for every foot movement, so you're moving at half speed. And then your attack rolls against you have advantage. So, which makes sense. You're grabbing on this guy and you're trying to keep him locked in. A lot of other people are going to take advantage of that. And then your dexterity saves. You have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. So yeah. Also, you're carrying around another person. Kind of hard to dodge things. And then it's really cool because slowed condition is now something that can be implemented in spells as well. Also an amazing thing for like ice-related spells. Honestly, I would probably put that in some ice-related spells now, and just say like, hey, roll a saving throw, and if you don't make it, you have the slow condition until the end of your turn, which is kind of cool. Let's see. Gaining inspiration. Here we go. Taking it away from the DM. It happens basically every time that someone rolls a d20. Every time someone rolls d20 for a d20 test, the DM awards inspiration for that person. If they already have one, they can actually give it to another player in the group. So if they roll a 20, they have one, they haven't used it, they roll another 20, they can give it to somebody else. Again, just kind of giving as much inspiration as possible so people actually use it. But if you don't use it, you will lose it at the end of a long rest. So also something that helps your players incentivize using it. Long rest is pretty standard. I think they didn't. It says that they changed it, but I don't see really anything noteworthy here. Maybe it's this: a creature that must have at least one hit point at the start of the rest to regain its benefits. Maybe that's new. I'd have to recheck. But interrupting the rest as well. Maybe this is it. If the long rest is interrupted by combat, you must restart over. But if it's been at least 1 hour, they do gain the benefit of short rest. Let's see. What else is noteworthy? Tremor Sense. Tremor Sense can't detect creatures or objects in the air. And both creatures must be on the same surface. Or the same liquid. Oh, do you want to water verbal overload? Oh, do I sound bad? Right, do I sound like I need water? Am I getting hoarse? Sorry, guys. I should have grabbed some water on the way in. I feel fine, but I might be sounding a little hoarse now. If a roper grapples a barbarian, everybody has advantage to attack it? Yes. That's what that would mean. I imagine there might be some monsters who are immune to that because they have like multiple arms, or they have multiple, or like an amorphous form or something like that. And that would probably be something that they would have to include in the stat block if they did. So you bring up a good point. But as that's written, yeah, a roper that grapples, everyone has advantage on it. Yeah. Really? That does seem kind of dumb, doesn't it? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Grappled, yeah. So your speed is 0, so they can't move. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. So you have to attack the grappler. It can move you, and you can escape it. And then the slowed, they are moving at half speed. Their attack rolls against you have advantage, but... Oh yeah, no, they don't get it. Yeah. So attack against... So they're just bad at dexterity saving throws. They can defend just fine. People aren't rolling advantage on them. Just attack rolls... Oh, no. Why am I reading this wrong? Attack rolls against you have advantage. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Short rests are not gone. Yeah, you're right. This is the only implement of short rest that we've seen. It might not be gone because, again, they're trying to stay to core D&D and not change as much as possible. So it might still be there, but I don't think that they're going to implement in the new classes. I think they're going to take it out entirely and just have like proficiency bonus per long rest and things like that. Because it does... You can basically take a limitless amount of short rest, and you can only take a long rest within a 24-hour period. So I think it's meant to like speed up the game, and so you don't like short rest like every time you get into combat, because technically you can survive like 5 or 6 combats before you need to take a rest. Like that, the game is balanced that way. Nobody does that. Everyone takes like a short or long rest in between every combat. In my experience, it's what I've seen. It's from what I've seen. Thanks, Rye. Yeah, I know that I can't talk as much. I'm going on adrenaline alone at this point. Adrenaline alone. It has been a long day. Unarmed Strike is also different. You can, if you make an Unarmed Strike, you can actually do one of the following. So you can damage them, you can grapple them, or you can shove them. Great for monks. I saw Ned from Nerd Immersion point this out. Your monks get a little boon from this because now they can like grapple and shove with their dexterity modifier, rules as written, and so with their unarmed strikes that they do, and they can do it as one of their multiple attacks. You can basically use your flurry of blows to grapple twice or shove twice, which is also fun. All right, here we go. Spell lists. The high tier, the number one thing that Wizards, I love you. You thank you for this. This is a great gift, and I'm going to tell you all why. So with these spell lists, we've all been in this situation where we get a subclass or a class, and we're like, you know, I really wish that I could get a couple of these spells from another class. Like, you're a sorcerer, and you're like, man, wizard has some cool stuff, but I can't have them. And so here we get to fix that. So instead of having like a sorcerer spell list, a wizard spell list, a artificer spell list, a druid spell list, a ranger spell list, and every class gets their own spell list, we get three spell lists, and we have potential of being able to dip in other spell lists as well. So it says right here, it will show how a class or subclass might gain spells from another list. We haven't seen what exactly that might look like in all avenues yet, but it's possible. So why I'm so excited about this, if you've been a fan of the channel, if you've been around for a little bit, I am all about flavor, I'm all about customization, I'm all about creating a character that really fits a personal narrative and a story well. And so this is perfect because when you have an expanded spell list for your character, you can pick and choose things that are wonderful. Sure, the min-maxers and the optimizers might get a hold of it and just get all of the OP spells and no flavors involved, but hey, more power to them. This is why I'm excited about it. So, for example, with the Arcane Spells, it only gives you like cantrips and first level spells, like as an example. This is what we're thinking. They're not giving us like a full expanded spell list, just a sample. So here are our Arcane Spells. Now this includes artificers, bards, wizards, and sorcerers. I think. Is that all of them? Artificers, bards, wizards, and sorcerers. Oh, and warlocks. So five different classes all share this one, meaning that you will have a wizard that can cast. Where did it go? Which one did I want to point out? Arms of Dar or Armor of Agathis. Armor of Agathis. You have a wizard that can cast Armor of Agathis. You are a sorcerer that can cast Tensor's Floating Disc. I saw that a second ago. Where'd you go, buddy? Where'd you go? It's on there. You'll find it. And then we move to Divine Spells, where they are with Paladins, Clerics, and... Is that it? Paladins and Clerics? That makes sense. I think that's it. Yeah, Paladins and Clerics. Which means you have a Cleric that can cast Wrathful Smite or Thunderous Smite. And heck, you can have a Divine Soul Sorcerer cast those spells, which is also really awesome. And then the Druid spell list turns into the Primal Spells. So now you have a Druid that can cast Hunter's Mark, which is also really cool. So, guys, I'm hoping that they keep this, and they should keep this. I'm going to say this now, I do wish, and I do want... I don't think it'll happen to this extreme. I don't think they'll say, like, you can just choose your spell list. If you're a wizard, you can choose the divine spell list and be like a theologian, or you can choose the primal spell list and be like an archaeologist wizard. I don't think they're going to do that. I want that. I think that'd be amazing that you can choose your spell list from the get-go. Wizards, I want that. But I do think that it would be really cool if they just did some implementations and options where they can get maybe a couple things from other spell lists just to complete a character idea or a concept that they really want to bring home. And there's just one or two spells from another spell list they really need, right? And of course you can get that through feats, but again, that's a whole feat that we need to do that. And oftentimes, you know, you would need a prerequisite or you need to sacrifice another feat in order to do so. So, anyways, yeah, there you have it, guys. There you have it. That's the entirety of that of this document. If there's anything you guys want me to go back over, let me know. See, Lunar says, yeah, I think that they are just making it where you can find your spell easier in the book, maybe until the classes come out. I won't say for sure. It would be easier to find spells. To know where they're at, because it would be a little bit more self-explanatory instead of thinking like, oh, was this part of the wizard spell list or was it part of the sorcerer spell list? I can't remember. It would be arcane, divine, or primal. I just want Steel Wind Strike for my Hexblade Warlock. Is that so wrong? Ooh, a lot of people think so. A lot of DMs would think so. I think they might have to rearrange how you look up your spells and how it feels to me, Lunar. And I don't know what you mean by that. I'd be curious. What do you mean by that? I'm curious. And Ryberez says, but how is that different than reflavoring roleplay someone to get a particular spell, like learning it in the world? But how is it different than flavoring roleplay to get it in the... Maybe I'm losing context because of the chat. It does open some opportunity for... I think open up some opportunity for wizards to get new spells. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot of rules and a lot of changes, so it's hard to see exactly like where they're implementing and like what's changing what and things like that. So it'll be fun to kind of pick and choose and implement some things. But there are a lot of things that I am going to implement like right away. But obviously, talk with your GM, talk with your players, make sure that these things are things that you want to implement at the get-go. If you do allow things like the Ardlings to be a part of your world right away. If it is a descendant of an Egyptian god, or if it is just a form of furry or animal race. But I digress. It's whatever game you want to play. So, yeah. Hopefully, again, in the next couple months, we will get another PDF. But again, if you do want to try it and then leave feedback in 2 weeks, the feedback survey will appear here. So right next to the download PDF, it will appear right here in 2 weeks, where you can click on it, fill out a survey, and let them know. Because it's the new editions coming out in 2024, our surveys will be vital, letting them know what we like, what we don't like, and how we're going to influence the next D&D, next version. We have not had this in previous editions where they have been able to get feedback on such a large scale with the internet and with things like this, quite like this before. So I think we want to take it as best we can. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. I know that this is again not the regular time for me of doing this. Whether or not I will do an extra live stream on Saturday, we'll see. But it was fun seeing a few of you here that I have not seen before in the stream. So thank you guys for being here. Again, I'm the Cleric Corner. This weekend I'll be doing some Spelljammer stuff as well, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, go out there and spread the good word of D&D and make the world a better place, both on and off your tables. See you in the next one, guys.